Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the In Alignment podcast. And so, with you today is again me, your host, Canny. And I guess I would like to start by saying we are relaunching the podcast, or rather, I have taken a long break. I think a 6 months break, if not 7, even, if not more. And but during this time, a lot of change has been happening within my inner world and my outer world. And what else has been going on? I have actually recorded some videos. I recorded some podcasts since I think at the beginning of the year. I recorded like 5 episodes, and but I never published them. And I guess the timing wasn't right since they were not published, right? But nonetheless, I enjoyed filming and recording all the podcasts, all the episodes that finally I am releasing, starting with this one. And so I don't know if I mentioned this in the last podcast or video, or if I mentioned this on IG or somewhere, but just in case I didn't, and if I did, then, just allow me to reiterate. So what I wanted to do this year with the podcast is to organize it by season of 10 episodes each. And if you've been following the podcast, you know that you either know or you have noticed that, we haven't been very consistent. That is a fact. And when we first started the podcast, I must say, it was my very good friend's idea, which I got on board with it, and I was so excited. But I didn't see it as something that I would do. I didn't see it as something that I would pursue. I saw it as her baby, her thing, and I was just there to support her. Life happened, and when life happened, we had a few conversations on whether or not to keep the podcast. And by then, it kind of just dawned on me that I was enjoying this whole podcast thing, because let me tell you, when she first suggested it, I was excited for her, not me being excited to record podcasts, and let alone record them by myself, But it's one of those things, you never know where things kind of take you, and I have found to enjoy myself and really enjoy the process of discovering other people, like-minded people, and invite onto the podcast, but also discovering different methods or different healing processes or methods or things like that. One thing that I'm very passionate about is really the mind and the spirit. And I honestly believe that we've all came here to live a full life, a wonderful life, whatever and however we see fit, or however we see it, right? But again, or not again, but in my own experiences, what I have come to realize is that even though we came to have an experience, a human experience, and basically enjoy ourselves, we also came here to elevate certain things that have been created either by humans, sometimes that have been created by other forces, but that do influence us and that do kind of exist in our psyche, in our collective consciousness, right? And it's almost like we come here and we're like, you know what? I'm coming here to experience love in a more physical form. But for me to experience that and to be more in this, to have my spirit being housed in a skin suit, I will take on, addictions. I will take on anxiety. I will take on depression. I will take on whatever. And my intention or my goal is really to elevate that and bring it back into alignment and bring it back into love, into harmony, into whatever, you know, our original spirit is, or the frequency, right? And so I wouldn't even say unfortunately, but life, the human life, is so interestingly constructed that there's so many things that we have created, that are being created, that have been created, and all that, you know, it stays with us. It stays with us, and we don't even realize to what degree. And so some of those things, you know, it can be programming and conditioning, depending on wherever you came on, like wherever you were born on this earth. And so sometimes that can be seen as a curse, but once you realize that it's not a curse, or once you accept that it's not a curse, but that in fact that is a blessing, and that is in a way something that you came to elevate, and you start seeing the positive side of things, and not to say, say for example, if you were raped, or if someone attempted to kill you, or maybe just at work, someone refused, or like you were refused a job because of your skin color, or because of your religion, or because of the way that you look, or whatever it is, right? It's not to see it as, oh my God, this is what's happening, and you know, I knew it, like these people are sexist, and these people are what do you call it, it's like whatever, ageist, or I can't find my words, but all these things. It's the positive side of it would also not be to accept it in that way, but see, okay, so let me remind myself, I am a creator. And right now, I've always wanted to have this job as, say, X. And this job, basically, when I read the job description and when I did my research, this is my dream job. And yet I got refused because I'm a woman, or because I'm a woman of color, or whatever it is. Elevating that would be for you to realize, again, to remind yourself you're a creator. And so how do you make that work to your own benefit? How can you experience that? How can you elevate that experience? And so then you start thinking about different ways, and it's like, maybe, you know, you were never meant to be at a job, and so that's a blessing, you know, and you were always born to be a boss lady, right? Don't minimize yourself, don't belittle yourself, don't think yourself as less than because someone didn't accept you the way that you are. And sometimes it can be just like on a micro level. Maybe it's like your friends, or your entourage, or the people that you surround yourself with. They seem to be negative, but they're not negative. They're just the reflection of your own negative talk, your own subconscious negative talk, that is just being bounced back at you to be like, hey, this is not it. This ain't it, you know? So how do I elevate this? How do I shift myself into a situation or a reality that makes me feel good, you know? And sometimes you don't know that until you feel bad and you say, hey, that's enough. It doesn't mean that you have to go and, you know, blacklist everybody, but just to take the time and see what feels true to you. So anyways, I think this is something that I've talked about throughout the podcast, so I'm not going to go too long into it. But today, to kind of kick off this whole podcast again, I thought I would talk about something that just came today, actually, because originally I had another episode that I wanted to launch as the first episode. I guess I have to mention also that this season will be about transformation, alchemy, change, and all that good stuff, self-development, and different tools or different perspective to achieve that or to go about it, right? So today, this is just like, it's just gonna be like a little intro episode. And I took some notes here just to make sure that I don't forget what I wanted to talk about. And yeah, so today I wanted to talk about the concept of absurdism. I want to say that I'm saying that correctly in English and not with my French accent, but you get the gist of it. And this is something, it's I didn't see it, I guess the way that I came to know, or the way that this concept came into my life specifically today, is interesting because it's been, I would say, about a month and a half, if not more, maybe like 3 months actually, 2 to 3 months, that I've been always thinking about being illogical and doing things the illogical way so that I can get out of my own mind, right? And shift into a different reality. Because I don't know who said this. Was this Einstein who said basically, if you keep doing, no, it's something about like, if your mind is always doing the same thing, or if you've always done the same thing, and this is the result of your reality, and you're not satisfied, you know, you have to change your mind. Basically, you have to change your belief systems. You have to change your perspectives. You just have to change your mind. So the mind that got you there has to be different from the mind that will get you to where you're trying to go. So the illogical thing and absurdism. So apparently this is something that a philosopher named Albert Camus, also known as Albert Camus, I don't know why Camus in English, was known for. And I don't know if he coined this whole concept, but I feel like he might have. Do not quote me on that. But what brought me to this was actually a friend of mine, and I don't even think that he knows this, but a friend of mine posted a video, and I'm just trying to find oh, there you go. He posted a video, and in the video there was a quote that I really liked because it really felt like my whole life, basically, you know? And the quote goes, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. And I really loved that quote, and I wanted to find the video so I can share it on my IG and then share it, you know, in the description or something, because the person who also made the video, it was just like a really cute video, and then it had the quote, someone, you know, that was reading the quote. And so this was really, I really resonated with this because ever since I can remember, my parents always told me, you're such a rebel. And to me, I've never felt like I was a rebel. And even today, I would not consider myself a rebel, and maybe that in itself is rebellion. But what I would say is that I've always questioned things. I never felt, and even when I was, let's say, like younger, and you know, you had to do, or I had to do what my parents said, or like a figure of authority, an auntie, uncle, whatever you want to call them. Whenever I felt like I have to do what they're saying, it always felt wrong. I always, even if I would do it, I always felt like, well, why are you the figure of authority on this, you know? But it was only in the moments that I felt that I don't want to do that, right? And this would be maybe between the ages of 5 and 10 or something like that, because after that, it became another story. So, and that's why it became another story, because I was like, you know, this doesn't make sense. But also we kind of grew up in it. We were always encouraged to speak our mind, whether we agree or disagree with what is being presented to us, you know? And that's something that has allowed us a lot of freedom, I feel, in our minds, in our hearts, and all, like, just in our being. And so when I started, so basically sometimes I would even feel fearful, but if something didn't make sense, I would always speak my mind. And I would say, I would say what I needed to say, and maybe I didn't not have the authority yet to actually act upon what I was saying, but at least, excuse me, but at least I spoke my mind. And so this quote to me represented just that, because especially now, I find that I have so much freedom, whether it's in my mind or within myself. I've done so much work, so much internal work, that now I don't even, it's impossible for me to find myself in a situation where I'm like, oh my God, how did I get here? And if I am in a situation like that, it's always a funny situation. It's more like, oh my God, how did I get here? And almost in a ridiculous way. And so I think, yeah, it's just like, people always think that I'm a rebel because I don't follow the norm. But also it's like, well, if things don't make sense to you, then why should you do them? You can at least question them. You can at least pause and then question them. And this is something also that I've been feeling lately in the cosmos, is that I feel like a lot of people, especially with the pandemic or post-pandemic, whatever we're in right now, I feel like a lot of people, I've been feeling a lot of people being in, like, almost at a crossroad, but along our lives, I feel we come across a lot of mini crossroads. And what I mean by crossroads is like, that feeling when you're like, when you have to make a decision, and it doesn't feel like life or death, but you kind of internally know, if you go this way, this will give you this result, and if you go the other way, it will give you that result. And sometimes going against the status quo can require a lot of courage, and require to face a lot of things about yourself that maybe sometimes you don't want to, and you feel, and then you just choose not to. But then these things still come into your life, and they still manifest in some way. And if not physical, they will come as a disease. They will come as something, or they will appear somehow in your life, And so, anyways, so Camus suggests that basically life has no meaning, that the universe simply exists, and it's indifferent to people's lives, and that in that we are free to attribute the meaning that we want. And that's something that I feel is true for me particularly, because I have trained my brain, I have trained myself to always make things work for me. And it took me, I think it's really a perspective that we can learn how to, that we can learn to grow. But I've always, since I can remember, I've always felt connected to the source of all creation, to the divine, or whatever you want to call it. And so even when something, I think at first, when something didn't happen my way, or if it didn't make sense, or if it caused me some kind of pain and mental pain, I would always look at it and be like, okay, well, why am I even feeling this way? It always felt almost like wrong, like it always felt like this is not real, like this is not true, this is not how things are supposed to be, And so in that way, I would always try to find something that worked for me, and to make it work for me. And there have been, I would say, divine intervention, many divine interventions in my life, where I would always look back and see like, oh, you know what? I remember feeling this way, or I remember feeling guided to do this when it didn't make sense. And somehow things worked out for me. And so if I don't understand what is transpiring right now, maybe I'm lacking the awareness, maybe I'm lacking the perspective, maybe I'm lacking the clarity, maybe I'm lacking something, whatever. Maybe I'm lacking something that is not allowing me to see what this full situation is and how this will play, how this will play out to my benefit. And it's not easy. It's not easy because, especially when you're dealing with people and you're not used to dealing with yourself and, facing your own darkness, your own shadows, and your deepest truths, it can be very challenging because sometimes, you realize that you've had attachments to things or to people or things like that. But the more and more that I trained myself, the more that, I basically aimed to really get to know myself and to face like all these illusions, all these stories that I've made up, all these things that I have created in my mind, I really realized that, man, this whole, I don't know, business, I would say, like I would call it a business, this whole business about finding your purpose in life, and you have to find your purpose in life, it really doesn't matter. And the source of all creation has no business in that. It's not interested in, "Oh, I need to find the purpose of my life," or "I need to find what's my mission on earth." And I feel like a lot of people, especially a lot of quote unquote light workers, can really get sucked into this. And I feel like the more that you're disconnected, the more it's almost like the more that you're disconnected and wanting to connect or wanting to feel, to have a sense of wholeness within yourself, the more that you aspire to find your purpose or find your mission, find a reason why you were put on this earth, And what I have found for myself is that the more that I was creating these reasons or this whole business to find my purpose, to find my mission on earth, the more life gave me a reason to look for the purpose, for my purpose, to look for this mission or the reason that I'm here on earth. And really, after some time, honestly, mentally, it just became too much. Like, it just wasn't working for me in my mind because I just realized that I just want to be. And this is one of the reasons why I also don't like labels. It's not that I don't specifically identify myself with certain labels or whatever. Actually, do I? I don't think I do. But I don't like one, labeling myself, and I really dislike people labeling me. But the thing is, I'm okay also with people labeling me because I understand that it's for their own understanding. It has nothing to do with me. So it's not like if you label me, I'm going to be offended or something. I don't. But also to me, it's just like, well, can I just be? Can I just explore and find the meaning for myself or give meaning for myself, whatever that is for myself? I just want to be. I just want to live. And I want to find out how I can best do that, And the more that I have detached myself from all these concepts and all these desires to label myself or to be somewhere or to find my purpose or to find my mission on earth, the more free that I have felt, because the other exercise I then came across came from actually with the pandemic, because we're really always divinely guided, and the thing is, how much of that guidance do you allow in? And what I realized with me with the pandemic is that I had listened to, I would say, most of the things that that I was being guided to, enough that when the pandemic hit, I was happy. I was in a state of blissfulness. So much so that I got worried because I was like, hey, why is everybody just losing their shit, basically, and I'm here living my best life? Mind you, living my best life was like very internal because it was not external. Like at some points, it felt like I was living in ghost town. There was nothing and no one in the streets. Even at 1 p.m., going to the grocery, trying to get some food, nothing and no one in the street. So, and it felt very empty, but nonetheless, I felt blissed out, you know? And so at that point, when I started getting worried was when, you know, when we reached a point where we didn't know how long this pandemic was going to last. And there was like a lot of uncertainty, and I started feeling it's like the mind, you know, the mind is always looking for issues where there's no issues, you know? And so I started meditating about this, and I had an experience once where I feel like I went to the very source, to point zero, if there's such thing as point zero, which is also point 100. And I was in a space where everything was light, still, peaceful, silent, and yet chaotic, overwhelming, a lot of movement. And it was like everything was everything and nothing at the same time. And it was really weird. But to me, that experience allowed me to realize how much choice I have in my life and how much I should learn to exercise that choice, my free will, and decide how I want to live my life. But also with wanting and desiring to do that comes a certain responsibility, because in a way, or like a sense of responsibility, because in a way, it's not just, you don't get to a state, well, I don't know. For me anyways, I haven't gotten to a state where I'm like, oh my God, this is, I was gonna say an apocalypse, but that's not what I'm looking for. Nor euphoria. I'm looking for eureka. It's not a eureka moment and you're like, oh my God, life is easy now. This is how things are gonna be. The moment that I realized that, to me, it also felt like a sense of responsibility, because now it's almost like you cannot unsee what you have seen. And now you can no longer exist in the same way that you were existing. And the only way to continue life is to go forward and, you know, do more work and face yourself even more and deeper, but also learn this new vibration and learn how to operate in this new way, right? And so I feel like 2021 was basically me readjusting those new gears now. And I had to go very deep into my psyche, into my spirit, and I've encountered many things. And for those of you who listen to us, you know, on a consistent basis, you know that I have many different spiritual experiences, whether it's like astral projecting or traveling or talking to entities or spirits or whatever you want to call it. And so I felt like I was remembering a new language. And so now that I learned this new language, it's like new muscles. So I have to go through that training once again and go to the next level. And that is my responsibility. My responsibility is like, I cannot just see this whole thing and be like, oh, okay, that's cool. Back to my usual self, you know. The sense of responsibility came to me as, okay, well, now that you've seen that, now you've experienced that, you have to do something about it, you know. But even that, you still have a choice. But it's just that if you choose to stay where you are, things are never gonna click the same, you know. It's almost like someone tells you, that, or shows you the exact steps to become a billionaire. You've always wanted to become a billionaire, or you've always wanted to become, I don't know, a nurse, and you didn't think that it was possible. You didn't know how to do it in a very efficient, I don't know, efficient way, or like a magical, like new way. And you meet someone and they show you like, oh yeah, you could do that and continue on your path. But look at this though. Look how I've done it. Like, this is pretty cool. And as this person is showing you, you're like, oh my God, like, how come I've never thought about this? And then you just choose to be like, oh yeah, okay, well, I'm just gonna continue on this path. If that path, that new path that has been shown to you, has touched your spirit, has touched your mind, has made you, has expanded you in a way, there is almost no way you can go back to your old path or what you were already on and not think about the other thing, you know, and always be in a state of what if, you know, what if I had decided to do that? What if I had actually given a shot? It looked really cool, and I really want to get where that person got, but you know, it's like your ego can already sense all the fears, the insecurities, and the struggles that you might go through, and you're like, you know, I don't want to go through that, so let me just continue onto this path. But because that path has already clicked with your being, there's no way that you can be the same person, or that you cannot not at least have this what if, right? So anyways, we attribute the meaning really to everything that happens to us, and that's why we have so many stories, and that's why there's like miscommunication, and that's why we have so many perspectives. And you know, something can happen to you and your sibling, but you attribute that to different and very opposite ways, right? But I think my message here, as always, is that whatever the meaning is for you, make it work for you. And if it doesn't work, then find a way to make it work for you. Like, you basically have a God consciousness within yourself. You have like, you are a divine being. You are a creator, you know? And so why wouldn't things work out for you the way that, maybe not exactly the way that you want them to, but definitely exactly how you feel them, or how you would want to feel, right? So on with this Albert Camus, since he's like my new best friend now. And I feel like we've known each other, but anyways, I didn't really go deep into Albert Camus, but I just did a little research because, actually the quote that I said earlier, I found out that it was by him or from him, and after finding that out, I wanted to know who this guy is, because I feel like I might have studied him in high school, or maybe we touched on some of the teachings, maybe, but I don't think we went really deep, because when I was listening to this little video that I'm also including in the description, I didn't feel like we actually talked about him, but his name sounded familiar. Anyways, nonetheless, so the video that I watched is like a very short 20-minute video, very easy to watch and listen to, and they just decided to talk about 7 principles, like 7 of his principles or something like that, or something, 7 of his quotes, something like that. And so I have these 7 points that they were talking about, and that I wanted to touch on. So the first one is create your own meaning for life. And then they said, he said, you will never, what is this? You will never live if you're looking for the meaning of life. So this is something that I have found to be true for me, again, because in my psyche, the nature of my psyche is that I can really go into extremes, you know, obsessed almost. And so again, when I was trying to find purpose for my life, or find meaning for my life. Not that I did find that my life is meaningless or whatever, but it just felt like I didn't feel fulfilled in my life. I felt like there was just like too much going on internally, and at the time I couldn't even hear my own voice, and it was just too much. And once I was able to kind of calm all of that noise, then this sense of purpose became even stronger, because I was like, oh my God, I need to find a purpose in my life, because what I'm doing, I feel like whatever I'm doing is not a reflection of my purpose. And it's almost like I just wanted to attribute a meaning, like a higher meaning. But then once I got into that phase once again, then it's almost like became obsessed with finding meaning and finding purpose and this and that, and everything is like, okay, I need to understand why, I need to understand the root cause of this, I need to understand this and that, so I can understand my purpose. Honestly, it was very tiresome, because it's endless. And you know how they say basically your reality is a reflection of what your mind is mostly entertaining. Your reality is a reflection of what you think the most, like most of the time, and usually it's subconscious. And so when I got to that point where I felt that it was very tiresome, I decided that, what, nobody got time for this. I do not care about what is this whole finding a purpose. I don't care about like finding my purpose. I don't care about having meaning to my life. What I do care about is how I want to feel, and is basically creating a life that can be an amplification. Is that an English word? Hopefully that's an English word too. That can be a heightened a heightened reflection of what I'm feeling inside, And then now I feel like I've learned, or I've remembered this new language that I am now decoding and applying into my life, so that it can come to that result, so that it can come to a point where I'm like, my external life really represents exactly how I'm feeling inside, And so the other thing that it reminded me of, again, it's like we attribute the meaning, and so might as well make it work for you. So if ever you find yourself in a situation that you are unhappy, or maybe you're trying to quote unquote manifest a new life, and you get into these places where you are unhappy, or you feel like things are not working out for you, you have to change your language. You really have to learn how to change your language, so that you are informing, like you are working with your psyche and your higher being to kind of confirm, yes, things are always working out for you, and things have to work out for you, because you are a creator. So why wouldn't things work out for you? Basically, your only job is to manage that internal conversation, right? And sometimes if you're unable to manage it, what I usually do, I usually try to find something that will break it. So sometimes it might be go out, sometimes it might be dancing, sometimes it might be like a workout, sometimes it might be a nap, sometimes it might be a meditation, whatever it is. But we have you have to develop also that toolbox that you can go to whenever things are not working out for you. You feel that they're not working out for you, so that you're reminded, you can remind yourself, hey, of course, things are always working out for me, because I've seen it in my past, I've seen it in this situation, I've seen it in that situation, this and that, and this and that. The second point is, don't make happiness a distant goal. Learn to enjoy the process, because we always want more, and sometimes when we get there, it feels unfulfilling. Oh, okay. Sorry, I used my chicken handwriting here, so I'm trying to read what I actually wrote. So don't make happiness a distant goal. Learn to enjoy the process, because we are always wanting more. Okay, so basically what they were saying in the video, and what I feel, so what I felt from that was that especially when we're trying to manifest things. But even in life, I have found myself to be in a situation where I'm like, you know what, if I had more money, then I could do this. I would be happier. I'd be able to do all these things. And yeah, for sure, yes. But also, what I realized when I started doing more manifesting exercises is that if you're always in that state of, oh, when I get there, then I'll feel this way. When I get this, I'll feel that way. When I see this person, I'll feel this way. When I get that person, I'll feel this way. It's almost like you're negotiating with the universe when the universe has no interest to negotiating with you, because it's just there basically being like, bruh, like, I gave you everything, so I'm not too sure what you're wanting to negotiate, because things are already yours. So I don't know what to do here. I don't know what to do. But if you want to negotiate within your own palace, I mean, yeah, sure, I can entertain you, but also this is kind of boring, you know? And so what I have found when I was doing more like manifesting exercises was that it's like, say for example, if I find we're mostly chasing the feeling and not the actual thing that we want. So for example, when I will be in a situation where I'm like, you know what, if I had more money, let's say I would go to the restaurant more often, because and then so I had to take that and be like, well, why do you need more money to go to the restaurant? So one, I had a few belief systems there. One, I think my parents, especially my dad, has brought us, or maybe what I have absorbed from my dad's upbringing or education. One of the things was he made us, or I became like so independent that when it came to money, I've always been the one that wanted to give money or like to loan money. And even loaning money, I've always kind of loaned money because without expecting that it's going to come back to me, right? But I've always been the person who wants to take care of people. And sometimes, and it would be like, again, because my psyche, has an extremist tendency, it would be to the point that, say, even if someone wanted to buy me a juice, say $1.50 juice, I'll be like, oh, no, don't worry about it. No, it's okay. I can pay for my own. And not only would I pay for my own, I'll be like, oh, well, why don't we go and eat and I'll pay for your bill? I will not tell them, but basically it's this whole egotistical thing that doesn't even make sense, Anyways, so when I was doing this exercise, so let's say you realize, so my belief system was that, I'm so independent that people cannot pay for me. So say if I don't have money, or if I don't have the money that I would want to have so I can pay for everybody's bill because I'm that person, then I'm choosing not to go to the restaurant because, paying just for myself is like a weird concept. You should always pay for other people's bills and this and that. I was like, well, that's false, first of all, because one, the same way that you're paying for other people's bills, do you think that maybe somewhere someone else might want to pay for your bill? Like, are you able to accept that, And then the other thing would be, say if I really don't have money to go to the restaurant, what is the other thing that I'm actually trying to do? And I realized that, okay, I was actually chasing the happiness. Like, I just want people to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to exchange like really good vibes and this and that. And so in my limited, momentarily narrowed perspective, I had decided that going to the restaurant is going to give me that. So then it was a matter of now finding, okay, what is it that I'm actually chasing? Oh, happiness and fun. Okay. With other people. Okay. Can I create that, or how can I create that in a different situation that doesn't involve money? Oh, you know what? Going to the beach is free. And we can grab some snacks, or you can tell people to grab snacks or whatever. Or, hey, I have an apartment. Why don't I host like a games night? And we can do it as a potluck, for example, and everybody bring a dish, and so that there's a lot of dishes for everybody to share, and I'm just like, giving my apartment to host everybody and whatever and whatnot and these other things. So then, this is something that that we kind of have to learn how to, again, really identify the feeling that you're wanting, and then taking that feeling and bringing it back to the present moment, or the present and current situation that you're in, and be a creator. Find how you can create or recreate that feeling with what you have, ultimately to get to your goal, to get to the restaurant one day. But right now, with what you have right now, how can you recreate that feeling, right? Next point. I see we're already at 45 minutes, and I wanted to keep it under an hour, but we all know how I talk. Next point, don't be ignorant. Don't be ignorant. This to me is about perspective, and is about gaining more perspective. So, and this whole, I guess it is also kind of attached to the second point, the last point, where sometimes we feel limited, and or maybe let me talk about myself. I have felt limited in the past, in a very distant past, so distant that I'm trying to remember when have I felt limited, but I know that I have felt limited. And going back to that same example from the last point, if you're just entertaining your old mind's chit chat, you really have to learn, or I've had to learn, how to snap myself out of it. And that's by gaining perspective. And you gain perspective when you face yourself, right? And by facing yourself, sometimes that might mean, praying, meditating, pausing, napping, traveling. Sometimes we come across people and we don't have the same social cues, but by traveling, you expand your mind and you expand your perspective, so much so that you have a more inclusive or more rounded perspective that allows you to kind of understand and relate to different people in different ways, right? So the ignorant part, I think Albert was saying that it's basically one of the roots of, the headaches that we have in this world, because with ignorance also come fear, and when you are afraid, then you kind of create chaos. But once you gain clarity and once you gain perspective, then you're able to move about the world, like in the world, a bit differently, right? 4, be a rebel. And he said, I rebel, therefore I exist. So the message here was to live fully and authentically, and have more courage to rebel against traditional values. Explore more, and man, my writing is horrible. Explore more. Give yourself space to create something new instead of trying what everyone else expects you to be. So in freeing yourself, basically, you have to be a rebel. And that to me is not that I have to rebel against everything, or, just by default, if someone says something, I'm like, no, it doesn't mean that. But again, like when he says here, have the courage to rebel against traditional values, and give yourself the space to create something new instead of trying what everyone else expects you to be. It really comes back again to knowing yourself, right? Pausing, knowing yourself, and asking, does this make sense to me? And if it doesn't, and if you realize that, maybe breaking out of that you might lose your parents, or you might lose your community, or you might lose whatever you're attached to me, I've always looked at, okay, what is the scale? Like, honestly, what is more important to me? Is it losing friendships or is it me feeling good? And to me, it really came to me feeling good, you know? I cannot conceive a world where I live for someone else's happiness. And that means not, in a way, it is selfish. In a way, it is selfish, but I think it's like, I was gonna say a heightened selfishness. I don't think it's that. In a way, it's selfish and not selfish at the same time. Because when I value my happiness, when I value my own freedom, when I value my own blissfulness, you know, and from a non-egotistical point, it really allows me to just stay in that vibration and to attract more of that, is what I mean, right? And so it's selfish in a way because sometimes people always want to impose things on you and project their own stuff on you. But I always say, no, this ain't my problem. I welcome it if you want to work through it, or if you want me to kind of walk with you. But if it's just for the sake of just being in this whole vibration, I don't want to be in that vibration. I don't want to cultivate doubts in me. I don't want to cultivate fear. I don't want to cultivate insecurities. I'm not interested in that. I really am not, you know? So then I also know that with me being happy, I'm attracting more happy people. I'm attracting more happy circumstances and all these other situations and a certain reality that makes me really feel good, you know, without necessarily, and without also being in denial or in avoidance of, say, my shadows or certain darker aspects of me. I dig deep into my shadows and my darkness, and I'm aware of it. I heal it, and I'm like, okay, you know, and this is why, like, I just let go of it. And this is why I'm pretty sure that I've met some dark people, but they don't really affect me. It's just like, I'm aware, again, I know, because I know the vibration, I know that frequency, and it's like, hey, you've chosen to be here, great for you, sending you all the love, all the light. And if you're here in my reality, then I think you're looking for something that my being can help you with, you know, or can assist you in, right? So that's how I see things, because otherwise they would not even be part of my reality, because I don't entertain that. I really don't. And so it does take courage to go against traditional values, and prime example of that is that I think I've mentioned this in another episode, where there's you know, the way that our parents brought us or educated us is very non-traditional in relation to where we come from. And so but somehow it made sense in the society that we grew up in. But even at that, the core values didn't always make sense in the society as well, right? And I've been in certain situations where adults, people who had titles in my younger life, you know, have kind of cut me out because I was not acting in a traditional way that they know. And, you know, I think this was like at the beginning of my awakening, because I was just so shocked at the way that they had reacted, because I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't dismissing them. I was very respectful. I was very, you know, kind of open-minded. I just wanted to have a conversation, which traditionally, I guess we don't have conversation with our elders like that. You don't really talk back, you know, you don't really express yourself. And so as a result, I've been cut out, you know, I got cut out. And it hurt because at the time, I was attached to them. And because they had taken this title in my life and a certain space in my life, And for them to react that way, which was different from the way that I was used to, it was just a shock. But again, I get over things very fast, you know? I think that's like one of my skills, or one of my blessings on this earth. And so to me, I just looked at it a few days after, and I was like, you know what? I felt like I didn't say I wasn't in the wrong. And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm done. Like, on to the next one. But it took a lot of courage, because I remember even when I was talking to them, I was a bit afraid that they would actually, maybe my soul sensed that they would cut me off. And I was like, you know, I don't want to get there. You know, I want to keep that relationship. But ultimately, my being, also my higher being, is not interested in keeping a relationship that is not conducive to my expansion, to my growth, to love, to harmony, and that is just wants to stay safe, you know? So yeah, it might take some courage, but I think it's important to give ourselves the space to really create something new that makes sense, because again, we are what? Creators. One more time for the people in the back. We are creators. So, number 5, spend time with yourself. Apparently, he said, Albert, that is, said that this is the luxury of the rich. I have practiced, in some meditations, I have practiced being in a state of, if I had everything that I think I want and I desire, namely money, if I had all the money in the world, what would it feel like? What would I actually be doing if I felt completely fulfilled and there's nothing else for me to gain in this world, you know? I realized that all I wanted to do is be of service and give back. And that was a shock to me, because I was like, being of service? Really? But how? You know? And why? And because I think that's what we're here for. Ultimately, we're here to serve each other in the highest, most loving way that we can, right? And so in that way, I can understand, or my understanding of this point, when he says it's a luxury of the rich, being by yourself or spending time with yourself, is because I think, especially nowadays, in the way that most of our societies have been constructed, we are bombarded with things. And if it's not that, we are distracted, and we have conditioned our brain to really be wired for short-term and, you know, getting fast rewards. And so in that way, it's almost like our mind is always pulsating, and there's always so many things, and we feel like there's so many things happening, but really there's not that much happening, you know? And so if you had the luxury of time and money, you know, and you are able to spend if you had the luxury of money, I guess, and time too, yeah, money and time, what would you be doing? You know, what is the life that you came to live? And can you allow yourself on a daily basis, almost from moment to moment, can you allow yourself to remind yourself of that, and to shift more into that reality, so that you can really be in alignment with your heart's desire, with your being's desire, you know? And so this is what I've been working on, basically finding how I can be of service, and how I can be not just of service, but as the most elevated self that I can be. And elevated, I don't mean like, I'm all this, I'm so elevated. No, it's more of what is the most that I can do, you know? And with the most, I don't mean by getting really, really busy with everything, because I realized that I wasn't actually doing much, in the sense of when I was in that state where I had everything. It's not like I worked my whole life away or my soul away, like from morning to evening. It was quite balanced. I did a lot, but it didn't feel like a lot. It felt like a natural flow of things, you know? And I remember one time, even recently, it came back because I've been feeling like I wanted again to put these videos out and to pick back the podcast and such, but I had some resistance. And one day I was like, I asked my people, and I said, hey, why am I having so much resistance, or why am I having this resistance? And you know what they said to me? They're like, Kenny, this is not about you. The podcast is not about you. So take yourself out of that equation and do what you're supposed to be doing. And I was like, okay, we could have delivered that with a more loving note, but I get what you're saying. I get it. And so this is how things have picked up again. Okay, number 6, be flexible. And in being flexible is to be, or to learn how to be more adaptive, and not necessarily to compromise with everything. Because what I have learned about myself is that I don't do compromises. Like, I don't believe in compromising things. If it works for you, that's amazing, and keep doing you. For me, compromise don't work. And what I mean by that, with compromise, and I don't think that it's everybody, again, because for some people maybe that works, but with my psyche, when I think about compromising, it comes with a sense of sacrifice. It's almost like I need to sacrifice something, you need to sacrifice something, so we can both have a little bit of everything. For me, I look at, hey, I want A, you want D, so how can we meet so I can have A++ and you can have D++, because maybe we don't know of this possibility, but if we don't know of this possibility of how to get both, let's create it. Let's create a reality, a world where I can have A, you can have D, and you know what? We can have the whole alphabet and what's beyond the alphabet. That's the world that I'm interested in, And so in that little video, they were saying what's good for one situation is not necessarily what is good for another situation. The world is always changing. Change is inevitable, and that is very true. And that's why I think being adaptive feels better to me, or it's a word that I can better relate than compromising or being flexible even. I think the result is that you become flexible in a way, but being adaptive to me, it's more like, hey, if there's rain, okay, I need to adapt to the rain. I don't stop going out because it's raining. If it's sunny, oh my God, I don't know if you can see it, but it is so hot, guys. There's a heat wave here in BC right now that I'm actually sweating. But that's not the point of this conversation or the story. But I've had to find ways to still do what I need to do despite this heat wave. And sometimes it does mean maybe spending a whole day just drinking water and not being attached to having food, because right now my body just wants water. Am I okay with that? Can I allow myself to adapt to this situation? Doesn't mean I'm gonna be drinking water the rest of my life and not eating food, but right now, today, can I do that? Can I allow myself to be adaptive, right? So, 7. What is this? Choose love. Nothing in life is worth turning your back on if you love it. Choose love. Nothing in life is worth turning your back on if you love it. I think this is true in so many aspects, because for me personally, I am so relentless when I want something. When I say I love this thing and I'm going for something, it's because I really believe in it. I really want it. I really love it. And so whatever's gonna come towards me, I don't care. I don't care. I'm just gonna face it. And it may take me 2 weeks. It may take me 6 months. Just like with this podcast. It's been 3 years, guys. 3 years we've had this podcast. Am I consistent to the level that I would want yet? Not at all. But you know what? I've had to learn to enjoy the process. And with every pause or with every break, you know, I always come with a new way to, I wouldn't say challenge myself, but a new way to find what works for me. Am I okay with the break? Am I not okay with breaks? And if not, then what can I do? What can I create? How can I create a reality that best fits, that best reflects me feeling good about it, you know? And so, yeah, because I'm choosing love over my discomfort, over all of the stories that I've told myself, you know? I have chosen love. And so I'm still in this transition. I'm still on this journey. I'm still on this path. And I don't know, maybe one day I'll drop like an episode a day. Maybe not. But, you know, just to say it is a possibility. There's somewhere in the existence of I don't know whom, where that reality is true. But that's not my goal. My goal really is to just 1 year give you a whole year of one weekly episode. Man, the day that I achieve that, I don't know. I don't even know where I'll be. Maybe a mutant. Who knows? I don't know. But anyways, so in closing this episode, my keywords were crossroads, contrast, suffering, and things not working out. So the purpose of this episode was really because I sensed that people were at a crossroad, a bigger contrast that a bigger contrast that we have created with like pain or suffering, things not working out. And so again, I always, you know, heightened the importance of self-talk, the way that you talk to yourself. And you can just see it. Like, for example, I'm trying to think of a quick example, but yesterday, I don't know what I was doing. I don't even know where this thing was coming. Actually, I kind of know, but anyways. But I had a moment, out of nowhere, I started feeling overwhelmed. And I was like, oh my God, there's just too much to do. And it was so interesting because today when I was thinking back, I was like, yeah, I literally had 3 things that I wanted to do that I hadn't done. And that felt so overwhelming. But you know what? Because I have repeatedly told myself that things are always working out for me and that all I need to do is just listen to the guidance, even when it doesn't make sense. And that's the other thing that came back because when I was asking, you know, why am I having this resistance? And it was like, oh, it's not about you, whatever. Never about me. The other thing in that moment when I felt overwhelmed, you know, my guidance was, okay, just watch something. And I didn't want to watch anything because there was like nothing that I'm interested in. I have a very low attention span if I'm not watching something that interests me or something that is teaching me something, like something that is adding value. And so when I received that guidance, it just didn't make sense. But I listened. I searched for something. And you know what? It ticked me off so much because I couldn't find anything that I wanted to listen to, that then the next guidance was like, okay, go get some food at this time. And I remembered I had a gift card and I was like, you know what? Okay, let me see what they have. And so I ordered some food. I got out like pretty late. It was like 9:45 or something. Actually, it was almost 10. I went to this place, got the food, and then, because they had told me for 2 days now to go sit at a certain spot that I really like, but they would always tell me like around 10, and I was like, dang, it's too late, you know? What am I gonna do going out at 10 p.m.? Didn't feel right. But you know what? They finally got me out. And you know what? It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. minus the ants, but it was exactly what I needed. It was perfect. And when today I was reflecting back on that moment, I realized, because all they were saying, they were like, we just need to reduce the resistance right now. There's just too many things that you are entertaining in your brain that is not necessary and is not conducive to what you're trying to create right now. So this is not about, you feeling good and you feeling high spirited. This is about just reducing the resistance. And today when I was thinking back at that moment, it's like one of those things that sometimes you get guidance, it's illogical. And this is why I've been really practicing being illogical. We receive this guidance, inner guidance, however it comes to us, it's illogical, and we doubt it or we don't do it because we're trying to piece things together as almost like a mathematical, equation. A plus A equals A plus or 2 A's, whatever, when things are not like that in reality, right? So anyways, what I would like to encourage you with this episode is to be absurd, to be illogical, if you're trying to change your life, if you're struggling with something, start just entertaining the idea of the moment that you become aware of something that is not working for you. Just ask yourself, what would be the illogical thing to do? Try doing that a few times and see what comes back to you, see what's the feedback that comes back. And yeah, you might come across contrast, you might come across, resistance, but when you face that resistance, I fully encourage you to make it work for you, and to talk to yourself in a way that makes sense to you. Okay? So I will leave you here. If you're watching on YouTube, you already know what to do. And man, I'm so grateful for everybody who's been with us since day one on this journey. And I'm always excited. So I'm just going to say it again. I'm really excited about what's coming up. Oh, that's something else that I wanted to say. So our YouTube channel will now, as we have always intended, be featuring different videos that different types of videos. But ultimately, there will be a reflection and an extension of myself, my life experiences, the things I discover, but always to create like positive content, to give you something, and if nothing else, like just to entertain you in a very positive way. So, again, thank you for being on this journey together. I hope that I can bring something, add value onto your own journey. And, even if you're not like listening to this in a very deep way, I hope that you can receive my vibes, just like having positive vibes. And yeah, on that note, I will stop here before I go on a whole rampage of 3 hours because I'm a bit too excited right now. Anyways, sending you guys love, light, harmony, expansion, fulfillment, and you know what else? Thank you for being on earth, and thank you for everything that you do that you don't realize or that you're not aware that you're doing that is contributing to this whole human collective consciousness and beyond. So yeah, sending you blessings, light, love, and harmony. And watch out for the next episode because it's coming in about 2 days or something like that. Love y'all. Bye. Take care.